National Assembly leadership hold talks with Labour over strike, appeals for reconsideration.
Intends National Assembly believes strongly that anything that will bring more yoke, more suffering to the people of Nigeria must be avoided.
Preparations for Ondo up-cycle governorship election in top gear as INEC chairman visits state.
JAMB releases additional 3,921 results, which reshadows more than 24,000 other candidates for examination.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall examine military-civil relations and much later, new minimum wage saga, the way forward.
Nigeria, like any other country, has been imbued by conflicts and violent crimes. The commentary of insecurity largely manifested during the Fourth Republic, cascading to a tale of the unwanted.
Absolutely. And the 1999 Constitution, as amended, indeed prescribes protection of lives and property of all citizens as cardinal and foremost responsibility of all governments. And so, since the return of democracy 25 years ago, successive governments have been finding it essential and expedient to saddle the Nigerian military with the responsibility of internal security and, of course, preventing external aggressions. Now, as an attestation of the heavy burden and sacrifice that they make on behalf of our country, considering some soldiers even paid the supreme price in battles to secure our nation.
According to analysts, this was mainly due to two major factors. The first is the emerging political theatrics and the electoral-induced violence. The second factor is the seemingly gap within the Nigerian police force caused by ill funding and low capacity. The role of the Nigerian military in attempting to ward off disruptions and unrest keeps meeting resistance, especially with insurgency and banditry, but their resilience remains unmatched.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we must credit our military and our fighting men, especially those at the battlefront. But their safety is what is of concern to all Nigerians, and of course, as the case of the hunter becoming the hunted. Now, in recent times, civilians are allegedly killing Nigerian soldiers without recourse. Earlier in March, for instance, the case of 16 Nigerian soldiers killed on a mission in Delta State to halt clashes between two warring communities in Ukwama community. Now, that still leaves the taste of a bitter pill. Reacting, to the incident, our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu warned that any attack on the armed forces or any of the fighting men is an attack on the nation. Indeed, it is a treason offense.
It is. It is. You're right, Claire. And less than 2 months from this incident, at least 4 soldiers were reportedly killed last Thursday when gunmen attacked them in Aba, the commercial hub of Abia State. Reports say the men, numbering about 15, attacked the soldiers at a military checkpoint. According to media reports, the gunmen were said to be enforcing a sit-at-home order declared by the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOD, across the southeast to mark the Biafra Day.
And as expected, the Nigerian army is not taking this line low. Already they have vowed that the military would avenge the killing of the soldiers, adding that the military's response would be fierce. And as we speak, markets and other public facilities in Abia State have reportedly been closed down as tensions heightens in some parts of Aba.
Nigerians are anticipating the reaction in bated breath with concerns on the impending face-off. But the question is, how did we come to this point of cutting short the life of soldiers who are constitutionally charged with the responsibility of protecting Nigerians? Does this not threaten the sovereignty of our nation? And how can military-civil relations be improved? I am Ademola Adeoye.
And we are also not oblivious of what is happening today. Organized labor on Friday announced its decision to embark on an indefinite nationwide industrial action today. Now, what it terms as the failure of federal government to conclude and pass into law a new National Minimum Wage Act and the reversal of the electricity tariff hike from 225 naira per kilowatt to 65 naira, beg your pardon, kilowatt. Now, this, of course, as I said earlier on, will be the second topic as we take a look at the issues and perhaps project way forward. I join my colleague, Demola Adeoye, to welcome you to the program. I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. In today's program, which is the first for this week, the first episode for the month of June, my birth month, we are reaching you on the network service of the NTA. And soon enough, newspaper review will get to you, and reviewer Chukwudi Baja will join us. But shortly, I will take the highlights of the news in just a moment. And here is the news. The organized labor says it will convene a meeting to discuss the appeal by the leadership of the National Assembly as it urges labor not to go ahead with the planned strike. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the leadership of NAS had a meeting with labor and other stakeholders to intervene on the proposed strike, scheduled for today, the 3rd of June, 2024. Now, President of the Senate, who presided over the meeting that lasted 4 hours, says the legislature is committed to ensuring that a compromise is arrived at and pleaded with labor to return to the negotiating table.
We decided to intervene because we are a people's parliament. The 10th National Assembly believes strongly that anything that will bring more yoke, more suffering to the people of Nigeria must be avoided.
Minister of Information Mohammed Idris also urges labor to show understanding as government works out a reasonable way on demands. Organized labor insists, however, what it seeks is a living wage for workers. Now, the meeting was attended by key ministers and other stakeholders. Now, justice for a crane operator for a Chinese company in Aba, Abia State, Vivian Ocheze Unachi, who was allegedly pushed to death from the crane she operates in a Chinese company, Inner Galaxy Steel, in Okwa area by a Chinese staff, is now a source of worry to many Nigerians. Now, the Federal Ministry of Labor has sealed that company.
What actually happened in this place was an accident that involved life. We are here to carry a directive from the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment, the Honorable Barrister Kiru on the directive that we should come and seal, prohibit this company, Galaxy.
And the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, has released additional more than 3,000 results, just as it reschedules 24,535 other candidates for examination. The board, in a statement by the head of public affairs, Fabian Benjamin, says a supplementary 2024 UTME has been scheduled for Saturday, the 22nd of June, 2024, for candidates whose results are up till now under investigation. Now, these are candidates, he says, whose fingers could not be verified and have been given the benefit of doubts to sit the 2024 UTME. Similarly, the board has painstakingly analyzed the process and conduct of the 2024 UTME in some centers where it says there were strong proofs of substantial non-compliance with the board's standard. Consequently, more than 24,000 candidates have been rescheduled to retake the examination in their chosen examination towns on Saturday, June the 22nd, 2024. Meanwhile, more than 3,900 outstanding 2024 UTME results that have been cleared have been released now. The rescheduled candidates are to print their supplementary examination notification slips from Tuesday, the 4th of June, 2024, to ascertain their designated examination centers. Now, this release of results brings the total results released so far to more than 1.88 million. Preparations for the up-cycle governorship elections in Ondo State is in top gear as chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, arrives at Akure to meet with officials of the commission and other stakeholders.
The registration so far, since the exercise started, there's a tremendous voter turnout. As of yesterday, for instance, in Ondo, we have over about 20,000 fresh registrants as of yesterday, and we're in the middle of the process.
And those are highlights of our morning news. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue in just a moment. I'll be joining Ademola presently. Stay with us.
Fellow Nigerians, it is a good thing to be Nigerian. Good news! The Office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is organizing the National Fabric Competition, the #One Nigeria Unity Fabric Competition. The aim is to create a fabric design that would be indigenous to Nigeria, showcasing our culture and unity. This competition is looking out for creativity, concept, and the message of unity. Open to Nigerian youths, both male and female, between the ages of 15 and 25 years. And guess what? You can apply wherever you are in the world as long as you are Nigerian. The winner of this competition goes home with a cash prize of 25 million naira. Are you sure I will not apply for this competition? Submission of entries close on Sunday, 30th of June 2024. Submit your entries by sending pictures of your designs via email to unityfabric.ofl24@statehouse.gov.ng, making sure you capture all parts of your designs. Together, let us unite Nigeria!
Drink that, don't go for it. Yeah. Life na highway, me I just stay for my lane. Full speed ahead, oh, no limit in my way. God don't make them my back, nourishment to give me spark. So I go shine my shine and I will go for it. Go, go, no limits, go for it. Go, go, drink that, don't go for it.
Buy a Risco product.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope. happiness and love. Golden Terra Oil, for pure love.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
TerraCube is available in beef, chicken, jollof and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 50, 100, 200 and 500 naira.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Something new is about to hit your imagination of TV. A brand new sundial with StarTime's inbuilt technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTime's antenna and satellite signal. StarTime Sundial TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTime's highest bouquet for free, automatic system update. More benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Sundial TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next is Newspaper Review.
All right, thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria, and of course, time to welcome Chukwudi Okolu Ugbaja, who managed to be with us this morning. Chukwudi, thank you for coming. What's it like on the way?
Oh, the road was
free?
No, the road wasn't free at all. I was surprised that we had more cars on a Monday, purportedly, you know, starting a strike compared to the normal days. Quite a reasonable amount of cars on the road. Yes. So there's no managing at all. Yeah, it tells you that private businesses are really growing in Abuja. That's what it means.
That's what it means. I agree with you. I agree with you.
It tells you that private businesses are growing, and that tells you the economy is heading where it should head, really.
I agree, but probably that could also be that because it's the first day, and our hope is that it doesn't last more than today.
We really pray it doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't, because already
that's going to be devastating.
Demola and I were talking about, you know, the blackout, you know, since last night. You know, I don't know if you experienced the same in your area, but I know that we both stay on the same axis.
Yes.
So
when did your lights go off?
12 midnight.
12 midnight. From 12 midnight to we have not had power. So maybe it's the same thing.
Yes. So
we had light all through yesterday, but at 12 midnight it went off.
Yes.
Yeah, let's hope. The pilot newspaper is saying blackout looms. So maybe the paper is just giving us, you know, an insight already. The loom is here. Anyway, let's that's the lead story on the pilot this morning, but it comes with a number of riders as Genco's threatened shutdown over 3.7 trillion owed by customers. And the second reason is amount represents 2 trillion naira per generated, 1.7 trillion naira funding gap. Now it says huge debt profile, greatly inhibiting ability to meet obligation to lenders, and regrets development is departure from existing terms of power purchase agreement. And again, just to emphasize, the lead story on the front page of the Nigerian pilot, blackout looms. NLC begins nationwide strike today as MG folds action. Details of that on page 4. And there are other stories trending. 8 remaining kidnapped Kogi varsity students rescued. That's good news coming from Kogi, and we're thanking God for that. JAMB releases additional 3,921 results, reschedules more than 24,500 candidates. You just heard that in highlights of our morning news. And state police sure way out of nationwide security challenges, Governor Radda. And 4 killed as heavy rain wreaks havoc at Bauchi Trade Fair Complex. Now, Governor Ayedatiwa launches meters, tells BEDC to stop estimated billing. And the story trending at the foot of the paper, Third Republic NAS members beg Tinubu to pay their entitlements. Details of that on page 7. Just before I bring in Dimola, NDLA intercepts over 2.1 billion naira worth of codeine syrup in Lagos and Rivers. And those stories are on page 7. It's just a little below the nameplate there. And federal government temporarily suspends enforcement of helicopter landing levies. All right, that's the outlook of the Nigerian pilot this morning. Ademola.
Okay, thank you, Claire. I have the New Telegraph newspaper with me, and above the nameplate we have Tier 1 banks assets rise from 23.8% to 116.81 trillion in 3 months. And OPEC pegs Nigeria's production quota at 1.5 MBPD for 2025. The details of that story can be found on page 8. And below the nameplate, we have, you can't dissociate yourself from Buhari's failure. Tambuwa tells Tinubu. The story is on page 4. Adeboye laments hardship in Nigeria, says things are hard. And the details can be found on page 2. Autonomy, only way to save LGs from paralysis. Shehu Sani. The details of the story can be found on page 9, 7, 10, and 11. And the major headline, the minimum wage demand. Labour goes ahead with strike as NAN fails to stop action. And court orders still in place, call for action premature, illegal. That is the Attorney General of the Federation. We don't have powers to suspend industrial action. The unions, that's the union's reply to the tenants' call. Frequent strikes carrying foreign investors from Nigeria, says economy has no buffer for another industrial action. And we have the Nigeria's electoral process still needs improvement. EU, that details of that story can be found on page 3. Prioritizing judges' welfare above other judicial workers will endanger system lawyers. The details can be found on page 14 and 16. Chooks.
Yes, the hope was that dialogue would carry the day. I remember the implied pleas we put out here. But I started having fears when the expected dialogue seemed to have got off to a slow start. One would have thought that Labour and government should have started meeting as far back as February, so that by now all the matter on the table would have been definitely sorted out. Yes.
I agree with you, Chukwudi.
Yes. The tripartite committee, yes, we kept hearing about it, but direct dialogue between Labour.
It was not constituted on time.
Exactly. That's part of the issue I think we need to look at in this matter.
And already the Attorney General of the Federation had already said that the reaction was against, the Constitution, because Labour did not give the required, period of notice. But again, Labour would probably argue that, look, we've been sounding this notice ever since. Been given indication that, look, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I think the action taken by the President of the Senate is commendable. But again, they needed to be proactive. They needed to have done that before even the commencement of the strike of today. So
well, they couldn't have done that because they were still negotiating with the government. With the committee was still on. It was when there was a deadlock that they came into the picture. So, but I believe that just like you said, their action is commendable. That is coming out to at least appeal to the Labour to just give peace a chance and allow the the dialogue and the negotiation to continue, because at the end of all these, we're still coming back to the negotiating table. Whether we go on strike,
the economy is in a fragile state.
That is the problem.
Government is sorely concerned. I want to think too that Labour, which purportedly represents the people's interest, should also be concerned, because there's no such thing as their economy. It's our economy. And that calls for some core interest that would bring in Labour's, understanding, as well as government's understanding. They must meet somewhere in the middle there. Labour is asking for how much now? 490 what? 92 or 94?
490.
Thereabout.
Yeah.
Good. Government is saying that's out of place. I don't think Labour really is asking for 494. Verbally, that's what but Labour knows that 494 will introduce super hyperinflation.
Actually,
is negotiation again.
Yes.
So that at the end of the day, government would not compress it too much to the 59,000 naira they are talking about.
I think they went that far because they are, thinking that at the end of the negotiations, at least they will give room for negotiations. That's why they went that high.
I think,
and at the end, they might come down to about 150 to 200. That's what they are looking at. But, and
I am not in the mind of Labour.
I was listening to one, what's it called, discussion recently, was it last weekend, where the Labour people were saying, look, actually we're hoping that the government will move above the 100, then we can now meet, at a point that is, that will be acceptable to all. They are not that actually insisting on that 490.
They couldn't possibly insist on 400. That would be almost laughable.
But
it's a bargaining chip
for
them.
Have we also thought about that Labour could also be saying, look, we understand that the economy is very fragile. We understand that what we are asking really is, might not be feasible. But again, that government may be, foot dragging and not showing some form of commitment to agreement. If government had, probably shown signs, set up the committee, on time, did other things on time and said, look, okay, probably Labour would understand. I said, okay, there's some sense of commitment. There's some sense of, responsibility,
sincerity.
And sincerity by government. So let us look at what is, implementable. I'm thinking in that form because everybody knows, the state of our economy. Everybody knows what is going on and how government is trying, to shore up and bring down the inflation. But again, the tone coming out from the National Assembly, from the negotiations, is that, well, the President of the Senate and members of the Assembly had, made their plea. They called on Labour to call off the strike. Labour has said, okay, we've heard you, we've heard your plea with demands, but for today, that was yesterday, we cannot do anything. So we have to go back to NEC and see. So we are only hoping and putting our hands together, fingers crossed, that when Labour meets NEC today, we'll be having some form of, positive response that will be,
I think too that Labour is beginning to cultivate the yearning for Mr. President to step into these matters.
Okay, Chooks, we're sorry. We have to, round up this segment now. More discussion is coming up in this program.
So
well.
The meat of it is going to come within the talk.
And we still have the other issue as well.
No issues at all.
All right.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
A good farmer is a craftsman of the highest order, it is said. Great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. Yes, let's set the ball rolling to build that great Nigeria where good food is in abundance, affordable and easily accessible. The Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, is aligning with the vision and aspiration of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, and is organizing the Every Home a Garden competition. The competition is under the scope of agriculture of the Renewed Hope Initiative. For the competition, women are encouraged to immediately plant a garden at home, such that the harvest can provide adequate food on their table and enough to give their neighbor. This competition is open to only women. She must be a first-time farmer. The garden must be in her home, and it is open to women in every state of the Federation and the FCT. Interested participants should do a 30-second video and a picture of the garden which indicates its location to the office of the First Ladies of their various states. The winner of this competition will be announced in December 2024, and the winner of the competition goes home with 20 million naira. Women, join the train. Be part of the food revolution in Nigeria. What are you waiting for? Let's get to work. This message is by the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON.
You have to meet my best friend. She's the sweetest. Hey, check out my hair.
Which one? The one on your head or the one in the sink? Relax. Next time, just use Growth Anti-Damage Relaxer. It's infused with wonder oils and conditioning proteins for visibly less hair breakage after retouching. Now your hair looks great.
Thank you.
Mega Growth Anti-Damage No-Light Cream Relaxer for visibly less hair breakage after retouching.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
And I'm wishing you and your entire family a very, very Merry Christmas! Have a wonderful celebration, guys! Mwah! Kemi, you know, I really think that you're very cute.
She was really pretty.
Yeah.
So she was obvious of that, and she was just
She was feeling,
you know,
feeling
I was
what's
just
up. And I also think that you can bring some level of balance and structure into Ibuka's life. My darling, I see you, he's seen a work of art. He has graphically, don't mind me, please. Are you married?
I'm single.
You are single? Ebuka! Kemi, name the best thing about Christmas holiday.
Love.
Love! My favorite Christmas carol is Dash.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Love it! I love it!
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Good. That's it.
Deck the halls with balls of holly. Fa la 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 la.
Is it fa la 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 la?
This the season to be jolly. La 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 la.
Name a gift parents would most likely give to their children for Christmas.
Food.
Shoes, money.
Christmas decoration.
Knockout.
Vacation.
A vacation. A vacation. Tobie.
Village.
All right, survey says.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Welcome back to the program, and it's Good Morning Nigeria this Monday. and it's happening live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Our conversation this morning, just to remind you, we have two topics, and the first one, which we will begin presently, is on the military-civil relations, and I'm sure you know why this is very important for us today. And the second one is another equally very important conversation on the labor strike, which kicks off this Monday morning. But first, let's listen to the background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi on military-civilian relations.
The primary responsibility of soldiers is to protect territorial integrity of their country, fight against external and sometimes internal aggression against the country, sometimes using technology to help defeat the enemy. This is a practical phenomenon globally, and that is why countries hold soldiers in high esteem due to the nature of their jobs. They are usually ready to die for their countries, and Nigerian soldiers are not in any way different. Now of concern is when these set of people now become the target of some aggressors, exposing the security architecture of the country. The reoccurring and appalling killing of Nigerian soldiers at different points in time while on national assignment have indeed brought shivers down the spine of many who feel such acts threaten the sovereignty of the country. Many sad instances of such cannot be forgotten in a hurry, and the latest remains the death of at least 4 soldiers who were killed when gunmen attacked them at Aba, Abia State in the southeastern part of the country. The hoodlums, numbering about 15, attacked soldiers at a military checkpoint in Obikabia Junction in the commercial city in the morning after enforcing a sit-at-home order declared by the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, across the southeast to mark the Biafra Day, which is celebrated annually in the region. The gunmen were said to have burnt the patrol vehicle of these soldiers. Worthy of note is also the death of 6 soldiers in Shiroro district of Niger State after being ambushed while fighting armed criminal gangs on the 22nd of May this year. The largest rural Shiroro area is a known enclave of the bandit leader Dogogide, who forged an alliance with Islamic State-linked jihadists. Nigerian military was said to be fighting these criminal gangs in the region, who raided villages, kill and abduct residents before this ugly incident occurred. The brutal attack of some soldiers by yet-to-be-identified hoodlums at the Banex Plaza was one sad incident that many kept remembering, with some questioning the response for backup when emergencies occur and why well-trained military personnel have become prey for criminal gangs or hoodlums who have lesser knowledge and training to capture and eliminate easily. Our guest will be answering some of these probing questions on Good Morning Nigeria shortly.
Thank you, Yemi Ajayi, for that background report. And joining us now is Dr. Kabil Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Although we are still expecting Dr. Monday Michaels Ashibogo, so we're expecting that he will join us in this conversation. Claire.
That's nice. Yeah, thank you, Demola. And we also have joining us via Zoom, regular contributor to Good Morning Nigeria, General John Temlong. And General Temlong is first commander, Multinational Joint Task Force. He also former president, Alumni Association of National Defense College and Security Consultant. Well, thank you very much, General Temlong. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much, Claire. Good to see you too. Good morning, Nigeria. It's a pleasure to be here.
With you, General Temlong, and because, you know, being a former military person, in your years of experience, can you recall this sort of military civil relations before the Fourth Republic? What has been the military civil relations before now?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's quite disturbing what is happening now. Before now, during our time, there was absolute respect for the armed forces. You will never see people being attacked or soldiers being attacked and killed gruesomely the way they are doing by the very citizens that they are protecting. that they are
No. We don't want to start like this. Network, you must be good to us today. You must be good.
Especially, I would say, in the late 70s, 60s into 70s. But then the more the military got involved in internal security, unfortunately, the more we saw a reduction in perhaps the trust between the military and the people. And for the simple reason that in all essence, the military is an instrument for the implementation of public policy. So where those public policies are seen to not reflect the wishes and aspirations of the people, unfortunately you see a reaction for the people. So the more, of course, military rule became ingrained, the more the military became involved in internal security, the more you saw people's reaction sometimes to the role of the military, and of course the military being targets of attack because of the grievances that the people. Now over time, I think the military too realized that, and then the concept of civil-military relations also became advanced. Studies have been carried out, theories have been put forward to explain civil-military relations and to also identify the triggers. Perhaps in the course of our conversation we'll talk about that. And so what happened is the military itself started institutionalizing civil-military relations. So now you go to the defense headquarters, you see a civil-military CIMIC department. You go to theater commands like Operation Hadinkai, you see a whole department responsible for civil-military relations as a way of improving the relationships. But so like I said at the beginning, it has been checkered. The more, for instance, people feel they are not getting what they want from the government, the more the military is a target, unfortunately, of people's grievances. Not necessarily because the military has done anything wrong, but because people see the military as a reflection of the state.
Yes, I thank you for that clarification, because I wanted you to clarify that. And then you talked about military-civil relation being a specialized department in some countries. We do have that also in Nigeria, and I dare say it's very functional and very active, because I have also been part of their media engagement activities. But let us talk about ingraining the military into our internal security, which probably is the root of the grievances, of public grievances and all that. It wasn't, I mean, we are celebrating 25 years of unbroken democracy, so it's not intention of the military. I don't think so, and I don't think, I mean, there are no evidence to suggest that the military is intending to, take over.
The role.
So there was, you had sequences.
Parts of southern Nigeria. That's important. Number 3 is mentality, our mentality. And if that too is changing over time, what used to be and what is at the moment. The average youth is influenced by social media, which I'll talk about shortly, the role of the media. Then legislative framework. We've had a long history. Like you mentioned, this is the longest republic that we've had. And our legislature has grown. And we've seen some, I would say, positive development as a result of that. But before now, we haven't really seen that. Then number 5, I think, or 4, domestic politics. Has our politics been transparent? Has it reflected the wishes of the average Nigerian? Then in continuation is international and regional security context, directive given to the military. If you look at the Renewed Hope agenda, there are roles and responsibilities of the military embedded in that. And then in continuation is the image of the military profession in the public mind. How do we as Nigerians see that military profession? And then, of course, in continuation is the personal characteristics of the military professional himself, his characteristics to the public. Does he see the gun he's carrying as an instrument to force the society, or does he see it as an instrument to protect the society? And then, of course, lastly is the role of the media. What does the media portray the military to be? So these are some of the issues that have influenced civil-military relations over time in Nigeria. And for each one of them, if we pick, there are, of course, issues that have arisen over time. Let me pick the last one, the media. If you divide the media into social media and then conventional media, I would say on the whole, the conventional media has done quite well in portraying the kind of military that we as Nigerians would want. For social media, not necessarily. Of course, the social media has a role, especially as someone who operates in the intelligence cycle. I know the role of social media. But there are often times when the social media breeds the three, I would say, devils of modern day society: misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Where that happens and the target of that is the military, then the consequence is that the trust that the average Nigerian has of the military is depleted completely, and sadly that is where we are at the moment. Some of the images that was shown in your report were from the social media, and I doubt if there is a Nigerian that will see those images and be happy about them. But unfortunately, if you now tie it to the other factors that I mentioned, the average young person who perhaps doesn't know what a lot of us know about the military, the role they played in preserving our nationhood as an example, and sees that media and then remembers something like NSAS, all he or she would think is the effect of the military in suppressing their rights. And so he sees the military as a target of some of the attacks, unfortunately. So all of these factors are at play, and I think there has to be a conscious effort, not just by the military, but by the state as a whole, to now address these factors so that that instrument, like I want to emphasize, the military is an instrument of public policy implementation. What the military does is what we as Nigerians ask them to do. If the government tells them to do A, that's what they will do. So we as the people need to realize that we need them. They have a role to play in preserving our nationhood. And the more we subject them to that kind of attack, the more that capacity and capability that they have for doing it is reduced tremendously.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kabil, for highlighting some of these major causes of this strain in military and civil relations in the country. I would have asked you more questions on it, but I think we have General Temlong back. Maybe we should just allow you to complete your thought on the first questions on what has been the situation, the military-civil relations before the Fourth Republic, so that we can carry on from there.
Well, thank you very much. If it were in those days, Operation Second 11 should have been activated by now, and the armed forces would have been providing some of these basic national security assets for the people who wouldn't be having power failure. The armed forces would have taken over and be giving us power. They would have taken over the control of the airport and uninterrupted flights. Our waterworks would have been taken over by the engineers to provide, so that people will not suffer from the effects of this strike. However, these were things that were in place before. I'm sure some of our colleagues might not know that the military was trained in those areas to provide what they used to call Operation Second 11. But going back, we don't even think to understand is that when we were growing as young men, in fact, even before we entered school, part of the teachings that the society taught you was that the crown that a policeman, a soldier wears on his cap was representing the sound of the Queen. And that crown should not touch the ground. So whenever a policeman or a military man is seen and somebody is trying to even wrestle him, the whole society will go to help that military or policeman to stand still and arrest the person who is assaulting him, because that crown should not touch the ground. And when we got into primary school, it was reinforced by the teachings of civics education. What good citizens are, what bad citizens, what passive citizens are, and what your responsibility are as to the state. So going forward, there was a lot of respect, even for the civil servants. Anybody who was carrying the authority, so teachings were bring the argument of the military staying long, performing. Are you hearing me? Yeah, when people bring this argument of the military. Hello?
Continue.
You are hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so along the line, when people bring the argument that the military have stayed long in internal security operations, they have forgotten too that even in Britain, which colonized us, the crisis in Northern Ireland took over 30 years, and the military was deployed there for over 30 years. The Nigerian military has not been deployed for over 30 years since they returned to democracy in 1999. Basically, what is wrong is that there is a breakdown of the social order. People have a different understanding of what the state is and what their responsibility to the state is. People see democracy or freedom as synonymous to lawlessness on the pillar of law and order. And so if you allow people to start doing what they are doing, then there is something wrong. Generally, because we politicize crimes. Crimes have been politicized. People do not speak out against crime. And unfortunately, those who are in authority and those who are elders, elder statesmen like me and the rest, condone crime because they are afraid to speak out, to being seen as those who are anti the people. But being anti-people, when you are speaking the truth, is not anti-people because you are trying to reign in the society for you to get back the society from criminals. What is happening is absolute and pure criminality. Those men plan their operation like in Abia. They came out from the neighboring community from that area. They cannot say they do not know them. And when they were planning, and nobody could even hit the military that, look, you are going to be attacked. So I think there is something wrong that we must take back our society from criminals. These excuses we are giving that the military has stayed so long, I don't think so, unless you have not seen what crisis is all about. When I was commandant in Zaire, that is
yes, General Temdong, we will just keep you on hold for now, and let's hope that again we will, the network connections, yes, be resolved. Will be favorable to us today, and not disrupt our conversations with you. But thank you for the issues that you have raised. You've made a point that the fact that the military, is involved in internal security, it's not overdue and should not be seen as something that should, which you don't necessarily agree, Dr. Kabiru. But again, if we look at, someone said that if we must repair or restore military-civilian relations, coded relations, we must really look at the root cause of, and you gave us a number of factors that could affect that. General Temdong has said, look, the fact that they have been ingrained in our internal security is not a cause. For him, you don't agree. But another person, another opinion is the issue of power and identity. The wide gap between power and identity. And if you consider the fact that those who unleash this mayhem on our fighting men are not really, ordinary Nigerians like you, I, and the mother, but major actors, non-state actors who are aggrieved with the nation state. Could this be speaking to issues of power devolution, issues of criminal justice, issues of even constitutional, rejigging?
Definitely. I mean, the point I tried to make at the beginning is that there are several. We can't just hold on to one factor. So even, for instance, when I say the military's prolonged intervention, as it were, in politics is one of the causes, it does not mean the others are not as important. Perhaps at a point, if we can give them weight to determine which one is more important, but that hasn't been done yet. It would require a study to identify which one is more significant. So yes, not too long ago, I was invited to the launch of results of a research that was conducted on identity-based conflict. And the Southeast featured prominently in that identity-based conflict. Now, there are grievances that some of them perceived, others real, that exist in the Southeast. Now, the irony is this: the military is not the cause of those grievances. They are deployed to go and maintain quote and unquote law and order and provide some form of stability for governance to, happen. And because those grievances are not addressed, the non-state actors see the military as a target for their attacks, simply to thwart that effort to maintain law and order. Because what do they want to achieve? The stability. The more they achieve that, the more they think they are winning. And so where the military attempts to enforce law and order, which is noble, every Nigerian is happy about that. But the challenge is this: because the military is not the cause of the challenge, and because the solution is not also in the hands of the military, the solution is in the hands of our political leaders, as it were, at the federal level and then at the state level. Those grievances that we mentioned, this is not the remit of this conversation to discuss those grievances, but those grievances are there, and it's the political leaders that should come up with solutions. All the military is trying to do is to provide the atmosphere for those solutions to be implemented, as it were, and it's sad that they are now the targets of attack by that population. So as an example, when I say the military's prolonged intervention in internal security, the military, as a matter of rule and policy, does not have the platforms for peace building and peace negotiations and things like that. Yes, in some instances, if you use the example of the operation in Plateau State, they've learned as a result of necessity to put forward peace building platforms. But is that happening in the Southeast? No. So as an organization, the military does not have that capacity. That capacity is embedded in other security organizations. And the earlier as a country we realize that and take back the military to its constitutional mandate, so that these other security organizations, including the police as an example, take over the responsibility for internal security. And in so be, you cannot use, and I want to be very clear, for identity-based conflict, you cannot use force to solve them, for identity-based conflict. And that is what we have in places like the Southeast. There are conflicts driven by grievances, by people who feel they've not been given, quote and unquote, a good share of.
So was it wrong then to have deployed soldiers to help quell,
It wasn't wrong, but my point is it should have been followed by other concurrent. So as an example, if you notice, since President Tinubu, assumed power in May 2023, June 2023, there has been the rhetorics coming from governors in the Southeast has changed. Their effort in building resilience of their people has improved, and automatically we've seen excuse me, a reduction in the conflict in the Southeast. So point I'm trying to make is this has to be a whole of society approach. We cannot give that responsibility to one institution, the military. The governors have to play their role, traditional rulers have to play their role, and more importantly, the root causes of the conflict in the Southeast has to be addressed. As an example, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, it has to be taken to a logical conclusion. If he's guilty, let the court rule and let him be penalized. If he's not guilty, he should be released. The longer he stays, the more the oxygen that drives the conflict remains.
Well, how would you then analyze the killings at Okwama? That is not non-state actor. Those are community people, and these are soldiers deployed to, to help keep the peace. And community men, if you look at the way they were ambushed and killed.
Again, that's an identity-based conflict. From, even though this is the point I'm trying to make. We have to address those root causes. Even if we make every Nigerian a military personnel and deploy every Nigerian, as long as those root causes remain, we will not find a solution to the challenge. Revamping, every time I come here, I talk about social cohesion, and I talk about what African Polling Institute does. Perhaps our political leaders need to take that report and see the root causes of the collapse of that social order, and then ask themselves, each and every one of them, what can they do to help to revamp that social order. I love what National Orientation is trying to do now. Some of what General Tenglong said, they are about to start it. Civic education will be taught in our schools at the moment, so that the instrument of the state is recognized by the young ones, and they now see that instrument of the state as helping them, and they will now also play a role to protect that instrument of the state. I want to emphasize in my closing remarks that the military is an instrument for the implementation of public policy. And the moment Nigerians realize that, because honestly, otherwise we are going back to that Hobbesian state of existence where the stronger person would find his way, more or less. And that's not what we want as a people. We must protect the military. They are there to help us.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kabir. I think we have General Temlong back now. General Temlong, you can hear us, right? Okay, all right. So we have been talking about the issues. Several issues have been raised concerning the civil-military relations and why there were so much strain. And the major one is the issue of trust and social cohesion. And also, you mentioned the issue of communication and information, which is lacking. So how do we begin to correct all these issues?
Well, thank you very much. I think what we need to do is that we need to get everybody to understand their roles and know what they are supposed to do. The military is providing military aid to civil authority to provide the enabling environment for them to be able to operate as a government. Because there are areas that the civil authority cannot even access easily without the assistance of the security forces. Now, what we want to do is to restore that situation for people to address the root causes of their problems. And now part of these problems are, look, like I said, the social breakdown, the breakdown of the social order. You need to build the capacity and start deliberate efforts to rebuild the social order. You need to build the capacity of the citizens on what their roles and responsibilities are to their own security and to the defense of their communities and the nation at large. Now, you need to, even the governors, I've said it and argued, and unfortunately, we have so many people out there. If you
today, actually. I think we're still having this network challenge.
I think we may just have to engage.
Have to concentrate on Dr. Kabir. Okay, we're looking at this issue of trust and order and information and community.
It was that organized that defies the media in about 19 places as in our national security strategy, which means we cannot achieve the imperatives of that strategy without the media. Even those who drafted that document realized that. But sadly, and that is what pains me, all of the recommendations, most of them are not being implemented. And so there is a need for the revamping of the strategic communication component within our national security strategy. In other words, the meetings, especially within the MDAs, to discuss the direction of the government so that can be communicated to the people in a manner that the people will understand. Point I'm trying to drive is if people understand the direction of government and what government is trying to achieve, they'll probably be able to support what the government is doing better. Everything General Temlong has mentioned, I agree. Civic education is absolutely important. Our role as parents, what do we teach our children? The role of the various components that shape value system. Our schools, what do they teach the children? Media, both conventional and social. What are they portraying in terms of the patriotism? How do they see the instrument of state? What have we done after NSAS, as an example, to revamp that patriotism, especially among the younger ones? And then, of course, the role of religious institutions. Do they see the instrument of state as one that should be protected and should be respected by everyone? When clerics stay on the pulpit, do they preach patriotism? Do they preach respect for the rule of law and things like that? So all those shapers of our value system, are they in sync with what the government is trying to achieve? That is what strategic communication can help do, when you engage with each and every one of these components so that they support what you are trying to do. I think in the long run, the objective would be a win-win situation, actually. This will not only affect because we're discussing the military now. Let's not forget that the other security forces are also victims. The police almost on a daily basis. The customs, not too long ago, I think the custom actually showed us. Then we also saw, severally, civil defense, road safety. So it cuts across, and like I said, strategic communication will go a long way towards helping that.
I remember during the period of the term of the immediate past CDS, at the time when the very significant, victory, was made over Boko Haram. In his speech, he did talk about the fact that the military needed to win the hearts and minds of, of the people. And I think, that facilitated the military-civil relations engagements. But if you look at the depth of, distrust between, public, confidence in the military, it's so bad that, it would take a lot to really, restore that confidence. Now, looking at the content and context of the military-civil relations, you have attended, I've attended, a couple of them. Do you think it's potent enough, to impact on public perception of the military? Because the military is driving it.
Unfortunately, no. The military, first off, it's a participant. And because it's a participant, there's just so much that it can do. A lot of people will see it as it's because it's a participant, that's why it's trying to do what it's trying to do. And even the executive arm of government.
What can they do?
Take ownership of that. So as an example, there are three roles. Legislation, as an example, in identifying the drivers or the root causes of the deterioration of civil-military relations. I identified legislative framework. So that legislative framework to ensure justice, to ensure, because in addressing the root causes of the grievances, for instance, in the Southeast, the legislature has a huge role to play. If they can address those root causes, they would have provided the military the platform to operate without being the victims or targets. Number two, they engage with their people more than any other arm of government. Most of them, of course, they were elected from either senatorial districts or legislative. Anyway, most of them have constituents. So their ability to engage is absolutely great. How do they talk to their people to explain to them that, look, you need these security agencies, just like General Tranglong has explained, to establish public order so that governance can take place. If you see the huge sums of money that is being expended on security, just last week I sat down and put together the sum for health and education in our budget. Security is more than these two critical.
Assume Dr. Monday Michael Ashibogu. Oh, he's gone again. Oh, okay, I think we're having some technical issues.
I hope there's no connectivity strike.
I don't know.
Yes, anyway, it does happen with technology.
But at least we're happy we still have Dr. Kabil in the studio. Oh, he's back? Okay. Dr. Ashibogu, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria if you can hear us.
Can hear you. Good morning.
For joining us for this conversation, this military-civil relationship in Nigeria. Let's have your thoughts on it.
Thank you for having me. I've listened to Dr. She's this time dealing directly with
Keep our fingers crossed that the connection